Hello, Chemistry 10H students. This is Mrs. Altman, and in this video, we're going to be going over the other three types of stoichiometry calculations. So if you want to start from scratch, you should go back and watch Stoichiometry Part 1, where I go over mole-to-mole calculations. So in this video, I'm going to go through just three examples. But before we do the examples, even though I really don't recommend that you memorize your way through this, some students really do benefit from seeing a step-by-step of this. So I'm going to go ahead and list these. So the first step, which I did in the first video, you're going to just take what you're starting with and put it over 1. Now we have a step that we do only if what we're starting with is in grams. So if you are starting with grams, you need to convert your grams to your moles. So I think of it as multiplying by 1 over molar mass. So you'll have moles over grams, but you could also think of it as dividing by molar mass. I'm going to show you what that looks like with an example. The third step you always do with no exceptions. This is the mole-to-mole ratio. That was in the last video, just the moles of what you're starting with, or what you're looking for over moles of what you're starting with. Both of those numbers coming from the balanced chemical equations. And then the fourth step, which is if you want your final answer to be in grams, you're going to multiply by your molar mass, so you can have grams over moles. Now let's take a look at 3 different types. Again, I don't recommend you memorize these 4 steps. I don't even really have them memorized. I kind of think my way through them every time I write them down, but it's not how I mentally process these problems. But I do include it as if you're not sure where to start, this can give you a little bit of a framework. All right, let's take a look at a couple of examples. Right, so just like before, we're going to list what we're starting with and what we're ending with. Right, so the question says 1.002 moles of Na2S. I don't need the molar mass of it because this is already in moles. And then you might want to write down that it has 4 sig figs. And then the question says how many grams of sodium? Because it says we want it in grams, I'm going to go ahead and just list the molar mass of sodium here because I know I'm going to need it later. Because it's just sodium and element, I just get it from the periodic table, 22.99. But if it were a molecule, I may have to calculate that. So first step, I take what I'm starting with, I put it over 1. And then this is in moles, so I do not need to do that second step I listed before with the molar mass. I skip right to the mole-to-mole ratio. What I'm looking for is Na. I go to my balanced chemical equation. I see that there's a 16 in front of it, and Na2S has an 8 in front of it. And then because I want my final answer to be in grams, I need to multiply by the molar mass. And then before I even put this in my calculator, I just check do my units make sense. So I've got mole Na2S on top and on bottom, mole Na on top, mole Na on bottom. So I have things canceling out. I have everything canceling out except for grams of Na, which is what I want. So then to put it in my calculator, I'll write out here how I do that. I didn't here include the parentheses on the denominator, but I could have done that, and it would have also been correct. I round my final answer to 4 sig figs. And I get 46.07 grams of sodium. Let's take a look at the next type of problem. So just as before, I'm going to list what I'm starting with and what I'm ending with. So I am starting with 100 grams of sodium. Because this is in grams, I know I need the molar masses of it, so I'm just going to go ahead and list it here. And I'm also going to list that I have 3 sig figs here. And it says how many moles of S8, so question mark, mole S8. I don't need the molar mass of it because this is in moles and not grams. First thing I do is I take what is given in the question, I put it over 1. Because this is in grams, I need to convert this to moles. I do so using the molar mass. And then notice how grams NA and grams NA, they cancel out. I've got one up top, one on bottom. That's important. So then I move on to the mole to mole ratio. There's nothing in front of S8, so I put 1 mole S8 up top and 16 mole Na on bottom. And then from here, I don't need to do anything more because I want my final answer to be in moles, so I don't need the molar mass. This is how I put it in my calculator. There's other correct ways to do it as well. There are other incorrect ways as well. And then I round my final answer to 3 significant figures. And then we have one other type of question. So all of the stoichiometry calculations that we see in this class will fall under one of the 4 categories. So I'm starting with 50 grams of Na. I'm going to go ahead and put the molar mass here because it's in grams. I'm also going to jot down that there's 2 sig figs in there. And then it says how many grams, so question mark grams Na2S. So I'm going to need the molar mass of that, so 2 times 22.99 plus 32.07, I think. Yeah, 32.07. I add that all together and I get 78.05 grams per mole. First step, I take what's in the question, I put it over 1. Since that is in grams, I need to then put the molar mass in the next fraction, and then mass has to go in the bottom, otherwise the grams won't cancel with grams. Then I move on to the balanced chemical equation. And then I use the last molar mass. And then put this all in my calculator. I'll show you how I did that. I'll put this in its own line because it looks like I'm running out of space here. Oops. If you always put it in this way with the parentheses, you'll never go wrong. And then I have to round to 2 sig figs, so I got 85 grams of Na2S. Some of you are probably wondering why didn't I include this dot here, and that's because your calculator has no idea what that dot means. Your calculators, even though they have sig fig calculators in some of them, don't trust them. They're right most of the time, to be honest with you, but sometimes they are incorrect just because there are some small things that we do just to make it a little bit more clear to the reader, the dot being one of them. All right, thank you so much for watching and have a great night.